Gotham Knights, Suicide Squad, Redfall. What do all these games have in common? They're all subpar games made by great developers told to make something they likely didn't want to make. Today, we are tackling a big question. Why do great, world-class developers keep churning out games that seem out of touch with what players actually want? It's a trend that's hard to ignore, and I believe a lot of this boils down to how the game development cycle is stuck chasing ghosts of trends past. Ghosts put there by antiquated business ideas that were a much better idea when development started than when development ended. Suicide Squad is a prime example of this. It's set to release soon as a live service game, but the gaming community isn't exactly thrilled about this. I haven't played it myself, I will admit, but as I'm sure you've seen, early feedback suggests it's far from hitting the mark. Like, it can be fun, but it can also be repetitive. And what have we all been saying since this game was announced years ago? We've been saying, this isn't really the game I was hoping Rocksteady would make, but I guess I'll play it because it's Rocksteady? Then, of course, as time wore on, we start to see some gameplay, and like straight up, this game looks more like Fortnite than a long-awaited follow-up to the Batman Arkham series by one of video games' most heralded and innovative developers. Now, of course, now that people have played it, we're seeing some decent reviews about the gameplay and the way that it looks and the story and the banter and things like that, but I haven't seen a single person that's played it say that they think this has any legs as a live service game. It's just too repetitive. And I completely believe that starting a new live service game from the DC universe sounded like a great idea 7 years ago when it started development, and that's the key here. But I mean, 7 years ago, I was still in my 30s, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a salary job and just had my first baby. Now I own a home, I've started multiple successful businesses, and I have 2 amazing little kids. And live service games are going very out of style very fast. And it's not that they're less popular. I mean, Fortnite, Call of Duty, Final Fantasy XIV, stuff like that, they're as big as ever. Destiny is still hanging around strong, but the appetite for gamers to jump into new live service games is extremely low. And starting a new live service game in 2024 is about as risky as playing a game of Russian roulette, and not just for the companies financing these games, also developers who are getting laid off in droves due to canceled games and pivots that were chasing old trends. This isn't just about one game, though. It's about a pattern where the long development cycles, often spanning 5 to 7 years, seem to misalign with current player demands. Why does this happen? Well, it's partly because game development is a monumental task. It requires years of planning, building, and testing. But in that time, what players want can shift dramatically. Developers start a project aiming to hit a trend, but by the time the game launches, we've moved on. The result? Games that feel outdated upon arrival. I often hear people wonder, now 3 years into the PS5 and Xbox Series X console cycle, hey, where are all the next-gen games at? They're in development, which takes a long time. By the time they're ready, the PS5 Pro will be out and the PS6 will be on the horizon soon. But I'm not arguing here that game development should take less time. We all know what happens when games are rushed out the door and turn into unplayable technical nightmares. What I'm arguing for is developers, and more importantly, the corporate decision makers, to focus more on incredible experiences driven by gameplay and or story, made for a clear audience with a final product so fun that it can be enjoyed forever. It's not that I hate live service games, for example. I really don't. I love live service games. It's more that we're all struggling with companies chasing trends that were popular when development started, but not when development ends. Now, today's gamers are increasingly vocal about wanting more than just endless content. They're craving quality, innovation, and most importantly, fun. But we see developers pushing out these massive service-based games that don't resonate. It's easy to just focus on live service games here, by the way, but the problem is not just with companies trying to make too many live service games. Another great example is open world games. That's one of the reasons something like God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok were so refreshing in a time when every game felt the pressure to build this huge open world game, regardless of how empty it was. The new God of War games dared to make games that were deeply single player and deeply linear. But most developers decided, and still are, to follow the open world trend, often making these large copy and paste empty worlds with little to do that was interesting outside of the linear main quest. These games will not stand the test of time. They're flawed, like Final Fantasy XV's first half, or hell, even Halo Infinite. Again, open worlds aren't inherently bad. Elden Ring, Red Dead Redemption 2, GTA 5, these are masterpieces. but they're few and far between. We need games that, instead of chasing fleeting trends, focus on delivering an incredible experience. Games that are built on a foundation of a solid, engaging core and that adapt with the times rather than trying to predict them. Think about the classics, the games we go back to time and time again. They weren't trying to be the next big thing. They were just trying to be a good game, a great game. They believed in their vision, focused on creating fun, and as a result, they became timeless. And it's not a surprise that these games largely focused on two things: story and gameplay, regardless of the genre they were built inside. Like Uncharted and The Last of Us, Dark Souls and Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto and Metal Gear Solid. It's a tall order, I know, especially in an industry as fast-paced as gaming. It's a difficult job, and of course, without money, nobody's making any games. But I do believe a renewed focus on games that don't rely on a trend to succeed will naturally lead to those dollars these studios are looking for. I really do. It's difficult with so many cooks in the kitchen, but it's not impossible. It requires a shift in perspective, from seeing games as products to be sold to seeing them as experiences to be cherished, and letting the money flow out of that. Let the marketing sell it. While you make an incredible game, people will be stoked they drop $70 on. As we look to the future of gaming, let's encourage developers to take that leap, to build games that aren't just products of their time, but that stand the test of time. And that's my take on it. What do you think? Are you tired of developers and companies like this chasing old trends, or do you see a different side of this? Let's get a discussion going in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you enjoy deep dives like this one, hey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and remember, no matter what the trend, don't forget to have fun.